Okay, sorry about that. As you know, the computer just crashed. Right, so I'm at this point. I'm doing the sums in the first column. Okay. So I was busy with 3a. So you got 4 sine 66 over cos 24. But we know that 4 sine 90 minus 24. I keep the 1 and change the other. Okay? So it will be cos 24. And 90 minus changes sine to cos. So it's in the first quadrant, all is positive. You've got cos 24, which gives you an answer of 4. You all okay with that? Let's look at C. So you've got 3 sine. Yes? If you had changed cos, it's going to be the same. If you had changed cos, it would have looked like you got 4 sine 66. Yes, miss?
I'm so sorry to do this to you. You need to come down with your grade 11s to the hall, please, sir.
Okay. So this would be sine, sorry, cos 90 minus 66. That changes to 4 sine 66 over sine 66. It gives you? You understand? Alright, go to the whole people. Okay, so C is simply going to give us 3 sine, that's all stations to Claremont, that's 180. So that's in the third quadrant, so it's 180 plus 40 over. So now we're going to try and inculcate 40 in that, or use an angle of 40, of course it's 90 plus 40. So that will give us 3, 180 plus 40 in the third quadrant, sine is negative, so it's negative sine 40 over 90 plus in the second quadrant. Again, cos is negative, although it changes to sine 40. That cancels, leaves you with positive 3. Okay? Then E, we got sine 155 plus cos 115. So this is going to be sine 180 minus is 25. No? 180 minus 25 is 155. And this is going to become cos. Now I'm going to try and bring 25 in, so it's going to be 90 plus 25. So it's all stations to Claremont diagram again. 180 minus, take you to the second quadrant. Sine is positive in the second quadrant, so it's sine 25. 90 plus, that takes you to quadrant 2. Sine, cos is negative, although it changes to sine of 25. That cancels, give you an answer C. Let's look at G. In G, we have sine 360 minus theta times sine of 38 over cos of 52. So sine 360 minus, that takes you to quadrant 4. Sine is negative, so it's negative sine theta times sine 38. Cos 90 minus 38. So that reduces to sine. So it's negative sine theta times sine 38 over sine 38. That cancels, leaves us with negative sine theta. Okay.
Okay. I click PA.
Alright, boss, thanks. Now we're looking at I. We have sine 90 minus x times cos 319 over cos 360 minus x times sine 49. Okay, so again 90 minus x first quadrant, sine changed to cos there, so it's cos x. Remember, it only changes from 90 and 270. 319. So 319 is in the third quadrant. Fourth quadrant. So it's cos 360 minus some angle. So that would be simply 360 minus 319 gives us 41 degrees. It's 41 degrees there. Over 360 minus, takes you in the third quadrant, cos is positive. So it's cos of x times sine 49. Can be written as, so I'm going to, the 49 of course is linked to 41, so I'm going to change that as sine of 90 minus 41. 90 minus 41 is 49. So of course the causes cancel. 360 minus takes you to the fourth quadrant, sine cos is positive, so it's going to become cos 41 over 90 minus first quadrant, sine is positive, what changes to cos of 41. Gives me an answer of 1 liter. Alright, 87.6. That is number 1. Alright. So let's do this quickly. The ratios of special angles in the interval 0 to 360. That's our next heading there. I'm just going to pause the video at this point and wait till the kids gets back. Right, so let's carry on. So now we're looking at ratios of special angles in the interval 0 to 360. 0 to 360. We are told now that you have mastered the technique of reducing ratios of any angles to ratios of acute angles. You are equipped to evaluate the ratios of special angles in the interval 0 to 360 without the use of calculator. Now this technique or this skill is very important to master. The reason for that is because this is used when they test you for universities as well. Remember, there's a test coming called the NBT where you're going to write for a couple of universities. Where in your maths test you're not allowed to use a calculator. And when it comes to trigonometry, without the calculator, then of course it's going to come down to special angles. Make sense? So, if it says without the use of a calculator, please use the method that we are showing you here so that you can master it. Use it in the exam and in your external exam as well, or your NBT. So example 1, and this example is on page 237. We are told, determine the value of each of the following without the aid of a calculator. Okay? So let's look at A. In A, we have sine of 120 degrees. So the question you should be asking yourselves, in which quadrant is 120 degrees? Second quadrant. Okay? Always you're going to see me write this on the side. Okay? As a guide. Normally I just put the 180 and leave 90 at 360. So, it's in your second quadrant, absolutely correct. So it's going to be sine of 180 minus 60. What is 180 minus 60? Is sine positive or negative in the first quadrant? It's positive. So it's positive sine 60. Now when it comes to special triangles, we need the following. Always write this next to the sum you're answering. Here's 1, 2, root 3. And this one is not a triangle, but it works for what we're looking at. Okay. So, sine of 60. What does sine stand for? Opposite over hypotenuse. So what's opposite to 60? Root 3. So that's going to be root 3 over. You guys understand? Right. Let's look at B. I'm going to do it in this space here so that we can keep that information on the board. B. B says cos of 240 degrees. Which quadrant is 240 degrees in? It's in your third quadrant. How do we get into the third quadrant? 180 plus. So it's going to become cos 180 plus something. And is 180 plus what? Sorry? 60. Not so? So the question you should be asking yourselves is cos positive or negative in the third quadrant? It's negative. So that's going to be negative cos 60. So again, 60 degree there. What does cos stand for? Adjacent over hypotenuse. So it's 1 over 2. Negative 1 over 2. Any confusion? Rosanna, your hand is up. Down again. Yes? Goliath. Who's Rosanna? Oh yeah, Isa Gonzalez. So I was close. But you guys understand? Any confusion here? Nothing yet. The guys are writing this down. Huh? You don't need to, you've got the photographic memory. Huh? You're nice. You did it already. So you're working ahead of us. Nice. I like it. One day we're all going to be like you. Just not today, no?
Yeah.
10 of 315. Which quadrant is 315 in? Fourth quadrant. How do we get in the fourth quadrant? 360 minus 45. So 360 minus 45, of course, in the fourth quadrant. Is 10 positive or negative in the fourth quadrant? Negative. So it's negative 10, 45. So we go to the 45-degree angle. What does tan stand for?
Opposite of adjacent.
So it's going to be 1 over 1. So negative 1 over 1, which is? Negative. You see, I never use the calculator. Okay? I want you guys to make this note here. Reduce. This is now how we solve the sum. No? Reduce to ratios of acute angles, which means to say the angles less than 90. As I got the using reduction formula. Number 2, the secondly, fill in the ratios of the special angles using the special angle table or your special triangles. Okay, so write that down. Okay. Carry on with our lives. Example 2. Example on page 237. Example 2. Determine the value of the following expression without using the calculator. Determine the value of the following expressions without using a calculator. So if we're not going to use a calculator, what do we need to use? The triangles, not so. Again, we draw our triangles. It's 45, 1, 1, root 2. 30 degrees, 60, 1, 2, root 3. This is not a triangle, but work for what we're looking at. Nobody must come to me and prove it's not a triangle and all of this stuff. I know it's not. Okay? Then take it to your cos. Okay? That's what we need. So let's look at A. You got sine of 240 degrees times cos of 330. The question we should ask ourselves, in which quadrant is sine, in which quadrant do we find 240 degrees in? Third quadrant. How do we get into the third quadrant? Sorry? So sine 180 plus 60 degrees. 330 is in which quadrant? Fourth. How do we get in the fourth quadrant? Cos 360 minus 30 degrees. Not so? Is that correct? So is sine positive or negative in the third quadrant? Negative. So it's negative sine 60 times 360 minus is in which quadrant? Fourth quadrant. Is cos positive or negative in the fourth quadrant? Positive. So it remains cos 30. Okay. Now you guys use the special angles quickly. So sine of 60 is what? Sine is opposite of hypotenuse, root 3 over 2. Times cos of 30. Cos is adjacent of hypotenuse. It's going to be root 3 over 2. Negative times positive, negative. Root 3 times root 3 is 3. 2 times 2 is 4. Any confusion there? None? No? Let's look at the next one. Let's look at B. You guys do the first step. Alright. So for B, which quadrant is 300 in? Sorry? Fourth quadrant. So it will be sine squared 360 minus 30. Not so. Plus
Minus 60.
60. Absolutely correct. Plus, which quadrant is 315 in? 135, sorry. Second quadrant. So it's going to be 180 minus 45. Okay. So, 360 minus 60, fourth quadrant. Is sine, now 360 minus 60. Is sine positive or negative in the fourth quadrant? Negative. But because of the square, it's going to stay positive, remain positive. So it's sine squared 60. 180 minus, which quadrant is that in? Second quadrant. Is tan positive or negative in the second quadrant? Negative. So it's going to negative times that positive is negative tan 45. So what do I do now? Sorry? Use the special angles. So sine of 60. What does sine stand for? Opposite over hypotenuse. So that is going to be root 3 over 2. Not so. So it's going to be root 3 over 2 squared. Tan of 45. What does tan stand for? Opposite over adjacent. So that's going to be 1 over 1. So square root of 3 over 2 squared is root 3 times root 3 is 3 over 4. 2 times 2 minus 1, which is negative. Alright? Any confusion here? No? You guys try C for me. C and D. I'm going to pause the video at this point. I'm going to see where's the others. When you're done with those examples, you write down this general note. Right, so at this point you have had a chance to look at it at least. So let's answer these questions before the bell rings, okay? So C. Cos 300 plus sine 150 over tan of 225. in which quadrant is 300 in? Fourth quadrant. So how do we get into the fourth quadrant? 360 minus 60 plus. 150 is in which quadrant? Second quadrant. How do we get in the second quadrant? 180 minus 30. Over. 10 to 25. Which quadrant is that in? Third quadrant. There's 180. Okay. You all okay with that? Is nobody that's confused here? No? 360 minus? The fourth quadrant is cos positive or negative? Positive. Cos 60 plus. 180 minus second quadrant. Is sign positive or negative? Positive. Sign 30. Over. 180 plus. Which quadrant is that? Third quadrant. Is tan positive or negative? Positive. Tan 45. So cos of 60, cos is adjacent of hypotenuse, so it's 1 over 2. Sine of 30 is opposite of hypotenuse, so it's 1 over 2. Tan 45 is 1 over 1. So half plus half is 1 over 1, which is 1. You all okay with that?
Yes.
Let's do the last question quickly. D. So 300, third quadrant, fourth quadrant, 360 minus 60. Sine second, 120 second quadrant, sine 180 minus 60 times. Now 90 minus takes you to quadrant 1. Now so, is cos positive or negative? Positive. What changes to? Sine alpha. That's your co-ratio. Over. 180 minus, which quadrant is that? Second quadrant. Sine positive or negative? Positive. Sine alpha. So what happens is that cancels. 360 minus takes to the fourth quadrant, tan is negative, so it's negative tan 60 times 180 minus second quadrant, sine is positive, so sine 60. So that will give you negative. Tan of 60 is opposite of adjacent, so it's root 3 over 1. Sine of 60 is going to be root 3 over 2. Which gives us negative 3 over 2. Alright, is that correct? And there's your general note you need to write down. Is that when simplifying trigonometric expressions, start by using the induction formula to ensure that all the ratios are reduced to ratios of acute angles, substitute the relevant values of the ratios of the special angles, and also be on the lookout for pairs of complementary angles, which is 90 plus and minus. Alright. People, for homework, I would like you guys to do exercise 7.7, and this is on page 239. Okay? Yes. So I will just do a few and the sums that you had a problem with on Monday. People, enjoy the weekend. For those of you who missed part of the lesson and a bit confused, please rewatch the video. I'll post it in the class group chat as soon as it's loaded. You may leave. Good morning.